Hey, what's up, podcast? It's Jeff, and before we jump into this awesome episode of Teach Better Talk, I wanted to give you a little preview of a couple of the sessions that are coming to the Teach Better Conference this November 8th and 9th. If you're not already registered, you can go over to teachbetterconference.com, see all the amazing speakers and presentations that we have coming, and also get your registration. Make sure you use discount code Podcast Talk to save $50. Here are just two of the sessions that you will be able to come see as told by the presenters bringing them to the Teach Better Conference. I hope to see you in November.
Hello, Teach Better fanatics. My name is Jim DiDonato. I'm the superintendent for the Mount Holly Township School District in the great state of New Jersey. I'm so excited to be part of the Teach Better Conference. I'm honored to present among so many amazing educational gurus. Join me on Saturday for the session, The Future is Now. We know the students are the future, but let's not get stuck there. Let's allow them to be the change agents today, the problem solvers today, the innovators today, and the community citizens today. And let's make schooling more practical and relevant today. Let's create that environment that places students on the front lines today, not passing up the present opportunities for our students to establish that brighter today by only preparing them for a brighter tomorrow. So sign up for my session so we can inspire each other and teach better together. Don't forget to sign up for the Teach Better Conference at www.teachbetter.com.
Hey everybody, it's Suzanne Daly from beautiful Doylestown, Pennsylvania, and I can't wait to meet you at the Teach Better Conference. I'll be facilitating the Well-Balanced Teacher session. And in that session, we're going to take some time and space and look at positive psychology and look at those small shifts that we can incorporate in both our personal and professional lives to make us the best versions of ourselves that we can be. Because we know when we take the time to do that, we can better serve the students in front of us and our family at home. So I can't wait to see you, and please be sure you register at teachbetterconference.com.
You're listening to the Teach Better Talk podcast featuring expert educators eager to share progressive tactics to reach more students. Teach Better Talk is created by teachers and fueled by passion. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 114 of Teach Better Talk. I'm Ray Hewart, and I'm with my energetic friend, Jeff Gargis.
Energetic?
Well, you're energetic, and our guest was full of energy, so I just think today is going to be an energetic episode galore.
I think compared to Becky, I'm like the lowest energy person in the world. She is crazy passionate and excited. You just get pumped up talking to her. And I want to make, just because you mentioned it, I want to just lay it out right now. Like, it's not for show. It's how she is. She really is.
Yeah, legitimately.
And she really does love it this much. So, but it really is an episode you can really feel the energy, which is kind of weird at this time of the year a lot of times, honestly, Ray.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I mean, to be honest with you, I think there are some really key times in education when it just seems like most educators get into a little bit of a funk, whether it be the weather change or just, breaks and things like that. And I feel like October, November are really tough times in the classroom. And then it seems to get better. And then I think February is a similar kind of mentality. So I really think that the energy that she exudes is helpful, because if any of us are feeling a little in the rut, a little overwhelmed being in October, November season, I think that her energy is sure going to help.
Yeah, absolutely. I think just energy in general. Yeah, I think it is like, it's one of those times right now where, with things with, like you said, with the weather and the holiday, all this type of stuff where it can be tough as a teacher. And I think that's where we like really look and say, okay, this is a really important point of the year for us in our job of trying to support teachers.
Well, and I know that like supporting teachers is what we do all year long. So it's not that I don't think we do that, but I think this point specifically is the time that's important to remind educators how much support is out there for the moments that feel like you are lacking with support. So if it's, if you're somebody who's looking for that next idea and you're not really sure where to hunt, like my go-to is the blogs. And I actually read blogs all over. I go to ASCD, I go to Edtopia, I'm trying to think of like the main ones. I love tech and learning, but I think that teachbetter.com also has a really great variety. And there's a few different types of blogs that you can check out, but some of my favorites are the ones that kind of go over a new topic that I know I've heard about, but I didn't really know kind of the inner workings of it. So I know there's a ton over at teachbetter.com right now on very popular topics like gamification, new technology, building relationships with students, and like kind of those ways that maybe you didn't think of at the beginning of the year. I mean, I just think we have such a variety there. The other thing, Jeff, that I think I'm really like pulled to at this point in the year is finalizing some of those procedures that I knew I needed for my classroom, but kind of looking for those guides to help me kind of shore those up. And the free download section of our website, I think, is a really easy spot. I was actually just live on Facebook a few hours ago talking to teachers about retakes, and I have like the retake policy download. We were together this weekend, Jeff, and we were talking about the district initiative download. I just think those free resources sometimes help when you're feeling a little stuck and kind of help get you to the point that you're like, oh, okay, so with this template, I can make, some minor changes that will really help my students be more successful.
Yeah, and then I think you also just touched on one of the best resources we have as well, and then that's our Facebook group.
I love
especially
that.
For any time throughout. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, all year round. But like we said, like this isn't that you don't need it all year round. It's just that this is one of those times. Like it's a great place to go find your support team. And it's such an amazing support community there in our private Facebook group. So if you're not in that's on Facebook. Just search Teach Better Team and that'll pop up. But I agree. I mean, you rattled off a few of the many, many, many things over at teachbetter.com that we have, and it's all about supporting you as a teacher and giving you anything and everything you need to get through the good times and the bad times, honestly. So,
well, and I mean, even my live that I did earlier, I really just popped on because we were having so much conversation in that group. There was like 3 teachers that had posted their lesson plans, and there was one teacher that was posting a celebration. Then there was another 2 teachers that were posting questions that they wanted to get answers to before the week started. And so my live, I literally just went live to be like, hey, I'm going to talk through some of these ideas. And we had a ton of teachers that so happened to get a notification, and then were able to not only hear from me live, but they actually were asking follow-up questions to continue to develop their understanding in these ideas. So I just think anytime we can create a network that is dedicated to supporting each other, no matter what type of question you have, is a huge positive when you're kind of in the fall and enjoying a pumpkin latte, but really tired of some behavior issues.
Agreed. And I also think you want a little pick me up right now during this time. Listen to this episode because it's got passion, energy, and it will get you going. So Becky Schnekser is not only coming to present as a featured presenter at the Teach Better conference on November 8th and 9th, but she's also a veteran teacher, 14 plus years of classroom experience. She's a 5th grade science. She's taught everything, through, pre-K up to grade 5 and through there. But she is so passionate about just providing those authentic, like application-based experiences and explorations with her students that she really she's big on having her students see the content in action rather than just hear about it or read about it or write about it. Super excited. She does some really cool stuff when she's not in a classroom. She's actually out in the field all the time, actually on expeditions, explorations. She's gone to like the Amazon, the Galapagos Islands. I mean, just all over the place. In the forest, she goes and out stuff with National Geographic explorers and stuff like that. Some really cool stuff. By the way, the story about how she got to do that, you have to listen to. It is priceless. I loved her energy, her passion, her excitement. We're super excited about having her come out to this conference. This is a phenomenal, phenomenal episode that you have to listen to all the way through. And I think you said it on our last episode, but I'm going to say it again on this one. You probably want to listen to this one at least twice to really make sure you get everything out of it. Ray, any other words of wisdom before listening to this episode?
No, I just got to practice my chair hopping. So that will be next, which you'll hear about when we get into the episode.
Yes. So let's get right into episode 114 with Becky Schnekser.
Hey everyone, it's Ray. We're going to get right back to the episode, but I wanted to make sure you are all registered for Teach Better Conference. this November 8th and 9th. It is going to be an incredible 2-day event focused on your growth journey as an educator. I could not be more excited. Please make sure that you use the code Podcast Talk to save $50 off of your 2-day registration. Head over to teachbetterconference.com for all the details, and we will see you in November. Now let's get back to the episode.
All right, we're here and we are talking with Becky Schnekser. I just told you I wasn't going to say it right, and then I didn't say it right again, Becky. I think I got it close enough. You know what? It doesn't matter because you're awesome, so just because I can't say your name doesn't change that. Becky, it was awesome. We got to go live last week, you and I talking about the fact that you're coming out to the Teach Better conference in November, so we're super excited about that. I'm really excited to have you on the podcast right now. Before we dive into things, how are you feeling?
Oh man, I'm feeling great. I just looked at the calendar and I realized I'm going to be in Ohio with so many awesome people so soon. And I just smiled to my face. So
Becky, I'm so excited to see you in just a few weeks at the Teach Better conference. You are like on my list of like the people that I envision seeing and having that like slow motion run of excitement to finally get to see you. Not to freak you out, but that's totally where I'm at.
Oh man, that's the feeling is mutual. Like I'm so excited. I might bring my own theme music and then we'll slow motion like run to each other. It'll be amazing.
You just made my daydream even better than what it was.
Ray, awesome. Is Becky a chair throw person? I don't know if you remember we talked about with Mandy. You said when you saw her, you were gonna you would throw a chair out of the way to get to her. Is that?
Are you kidding? Of course. Yeah.
How dare or will you just go right over it?
And for Mandy, just so our listeners know, we were talking about seeing her at a conference in Wisconsin, and I definitely did trip over a chair on my way to see her.
You absolutely did. Yeah. So I am going to look for when Becky walks in, I'm going to throw a chair between the two of you so I can see you leap over it or run through it or throw it or whatever.
But I've had practice, so I think I'm going to step on it and use it to launch myself towards you, Becky. I think I'm ready.
So maybe what we need to do is when you get into town, Ray, the day before, we'll go do some drills where I just throw a chair, you throw it, and we'll get you ready so that there's no mishaps.
Are we going to live stream that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. I was just going to say, live streamer, it didn't happen.
Yes, I think that's a great point. And now I'm nervous and I think I should start stretching. Okay, but Becky, more importantly, I want our listeners to learn about you and not just hear about my excitement that you're here. So would you mind kind of sharing with us what you do in education? And besides that, you're going to be an incredible presenter at the Teach Better conference. What do you do in education?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. I describe myself as an educator explorer. So I bring field and expedition science to classrooms by going into the field myself. So I'm a science teacher. I've been teaching for 14 years. I didn't always just teach science. I taught every subject in public school. I taught 5th grade inclusion, every subject, and I totally loved it. But I had the opportunity 7 years ago to switch over and specialize in science at an independent school. And so that's what I've been doing for the last 7 years. And so when I had that opportunity to just teach science, I decided, you know what am I going to do that's different, that's over the top, that's going to make science education what it really should be. And so I had this idea to approach science through field and expedition experiences with students. And so that's what I do with students. And when I'm not in a classroom with students, I get myself out there in the field with scientists and with other teachers and other students to kind of see what field and expedition science is like so that I can scale it for my own students. And then I can provide information, collaboration, curriculum for students and teachers around the world so that we can really give science the credit and give it the time, give it the effort, give it what it really deserves in the classroom, because it's one of those subjects that it's the toy that gets forgotten. And it's time to unforget that toy and really teach science the way it's really meant to be taught. So that's where my passion is. That's what I do. Day in and day out in the classroom is make science real, make it a true experience and not just something that students hear about, because that's definitely how I was taught. And I could probably bet that most of my friends and you guys were taught science with a textbook, or you're like, hey, here's some facts about volcanoes. Hey, here's some facts about animals. And that's awesome as better than nothing, but we can definitely do it better. So my mission in life is to elevate science and make it amazing.
I'm so excited for you to bring this crazy passion to the conference. and on the podcast actually at this moment too. So super excited about that. Really excited to ask you the next question. So, I always say that I've been fortunate enough to fail a lot because it's led me to where I am. It's made me who I am. It's taught me all the things that I know and stuff. So can you take us and tell us about the time that you've had a failure, sort of what happened? Why was it a failure? How did you overcome it? And then what did you take away from that experience?
Oh man, if we are not failing, we're not learning and we're not pushing ourselves as far as we should. So failure, man, that's really how we learn. So one big failure that ended up being an epic win was last year in my class. With my third graders in their regular classes and in their social studies class, they study the regions of the United States. And so we got to talk about the Northwest and all the different regions of the United States. So when I have them for science, I try and build on that. And so we're talking about landforms and geographic features and cultures and kind of bringing it all together. So I organized this postcard exchange with classrooms and schools all across the United States. I set up the slideshow template for my students to put in the information that they're learning from these postcards and from Skyping around the United States. And it was just this brilliant. I was like, yes, I'm going to put tech, I'm going to put science, I'm going to put culture, I'm putting all these really awesome things together. And then it really just kind of flopped after the first day. My students lost interest and I was like, oh my, you feel your heart racing. You're like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? This really awesome project I thought was going to be so amazing is turning out to be like this big, huge failure. And I took a deep breath and I was like, all right, major fail. How am I going to recover from this? Well, I'm going to pull out some pictures from when I was in college. And I know what you're thinking. Not those types of pictures, but pictures of me caving in college. I used to go out with a professor and a couple of my my colleagues, my peers. We used to go caving on the weekends. And so I had pulled these pictures for my students already because I was like, man, when we get to cave formations, when a postcard comes and it talks about caves, I'm going to bust out these pictures and it's going to be amazing. And that time had not come because my project was failing. So I pulled the pictures out early and I said, hey guys, oh my gosh, what's going on here? And it just happened to be a picture of me stuck in a cave, like literally hanging from a ledge inside a cave. I'm completely dirty. My helmet's falling off. I'm laughing, but I'm also like trying not to cry because I'm about to die in the middle of a cave, like in the middle of the mountains in the western part of Virginia. And it was the magic that needed to happen. It was what turned this failure into a huge win. My students jumped all over these pictures and they were like, oh my gosh, they had probably 1,000,001 questions. And in that moment, I realized that I wasn't going to give up from that failure and that I was going to be able to turn this around and make it a huge win. And actually, what I ended up doing with this lesson was turning my lab 3 days later into a caving system. So I literally, inside my classroom, built caves for my students to crawl into. Like I blocked the door. They had to get on hands and knees. They had to have lanterns. They had headlamps. They had field notebooks to write down what they saw in each of the caves. And it turned this like mediocre and turning into a failure lesson into this huge experience. And I was so excited about it that I sent a message to Dave Burgess on Twitter. And I was like, oh my gosh, Dave, you'll never guess what I just did. And I was talking about it and, typing a mile a minute. And he was like, dude, type it up. Let's blog it up. Send it to me. And I was like, oh my gosh, are you serious? So that was literally a year ago that had happened. So, what I really learned from failure was that it doesn't have to end that way. And failure is just kind of like a stepping stone to eventual success. And so the way that you recover from a failure is really the important part. It's not necessarily that you failed. It's not necessarily that you succeeded later, but it's the kind of in between. It's that yellow brick road that got you from point A to point B. So that's that was a huge development in my life last year, and kind of actually that opened a lot of ideas for me going into the next year. So even to today, I use that experience to really craft some other things that I do in my classroom. So there you have it, failure into success.
Not only did I love,
I was going to say, Jeff, didn't that sound like her success story? That's what it sounded like to me.
So yeah. Well, I was going to say is like, I not only did I love the story and just what you did, I really want to go to your classroom now and playing caves But I love how, like, what you took away from that, and how you say that what you learned was a failure doesn't have to be the end of it. I love that you flipped it to, like what Ray said, you flipped it into a success. And I love that. That's the best. When we see that, we learn from it, and we really like turn it into, and just, we flip the narrative on failure and make it a success. I love it. But now I actually am going to flip it around to a successful moment.
Okay.
So that's like, Ray hit it right on the head. It kind of sounded like a couple successful moments there, but let's do another one. So tell us about a successful moment you've had. It doesn't have to, it can be big, small, whatever, but what happened? Why was it a success for you? And then what'd you take away from that?
Yeah. So another story from last year. So in 5th grade, so that previous story, all the caving happened in my 3rd grade classes. So I teach, first of all, I'm going to take 5 steps back. I teach pre-kindergarten through grade 5 science. So I teach around 300 students. So 3 different classes in every grade level. So that caving happened last year in 3rd grade. Last year in 5th grade, as I was teaching human body systems, I was working with 5th graders, and every single year I'm like, man, what am I going to do? What's the personality of this class? Where do they need to go? How can I challenge them? And this one particular class, I challenged them to create articulated thumb models. So a model of a thumb that can move like your thumb does, but it's not your actual thumb. So I gave them popsicle sticks and string and twist ties and little rubber connector pieces. And I literally just handed it to them and said, guys, let's see what you can do. I want to see some thumbs. I want you to make this model. I want you to show me that you know how bones, muscles, and tendons all kind of work together as a system. So as they were tackling the challenge, as our students do, they get so excited, and they came up to my face, and they're waving these little models in my hands, and they're putting these models in my face. And this one student in particular, she was so excited. She brought her model up to my face, and she's wagging it back and forth, and she's kind of almost like a thumb war, right? But it's in my face, and it's like in my nose, and she's quite almost literally picking my nose with it. And I'm like, oh man, it's on, sister. I picked up my model, and I got right in her face too. And I took my model, and I started going back and forth just like a thumb war. And I was like, 1, 2, 3, 4. I declare phalange war, which is like super nerdy, but it's like so me. And it also happened to all kind of come together. It was the end of February. We're about to jump into March Madness. Everybody's hyped about basketball. They're talking about their brackets, who's going to win, what college team is the best, what college team is going to, punk out in the bracket. And it hit me. I was like, oh man, we totally have to do a phalange war bracket tournament, and it's going to begin tomorrow. And as soon as those words came out of my mouth, my students jumped on it. They grabbed big bulletin board paper. They were drawing the brackets. They were putting everybody's name in a hat. They were pulling them out at random. They were trying to figure out who was going to be playing in the first games, who was going to go next, what was going to be a fair distribution of all of that. And as they went to town, I jumped on my computer. I was like, oh man, if we're going to go, we're going all out. We're going to have a soundtrack. I'm going to have classics like Final Countdown. We're going to bring in some of the 90s with the jock jams. And my students loved it. They recorded videos. They rallied around each other. Like the camaraderie that they had for each other was amazing. It was another level that just made this so incredible. So the next day, the day of the tournament, I had the soundtrack ready. I was over by the lights, and when the students started coming in, I started flickering them. So it was kind of like a rave, and we're final countdowning as they're coming into the room. And it was like you could just envision Rocky. Like I had 17 Rockies coming in. They had their sweatsuits on. They had their sweatbands on. They're coming in. They're picking up their models. They're talking smack to each other. But it wasn't like that mean smack talk. It was like, man, you're going down. Your phalange's going down. It was awesome. It was amazing. And then they even as people were getting knocked out of the brackets, they didn't get sad. They didn't get upset. They didn't get mean. They just rallied around each other. So I was talking about that camaraderie earlier. It was amazing. Like they get knocked out and they're like, that's okay, because I'm going to be behind so-and-so. And they were like, oh, let's split up in half. Your half, you got to be on this side. Your half got to be on this side. And they started doing chants, and it was absolutely amazing. So it brought it brought a STEM project together. It brought human anatomy. It brought camaraderie. It brought team building. And it was absolutely amazing. And so really what that taught me was this little brainchild taught me that you have to leave room for flexibility and inspiration in some of the most unusual and organic ways. because a lot of my success as an educator, I'm not going to lie, it's from these little gems like this popping up in conversations or interactions with students, or even students just saying, hey, why don't we do this? And I just choose to run with them with these crazy ideas, and they choose to run with me on these crazy ideas. So there's times when we have to be rigid, and rigidity is necessary, but we also have to leave room for spontaneity, because that's where just these amazing events happen. And these are things that students, when they're in high school or they're off in college or they're out in the workplace, they're going to come back and they're going to remember, man, do you remember that one time in 5th grade? We had final countdown. I felt like Rocky. I had a phalange in my hand. By the way, a phalange is, and they're going to like throw some knowledge down. It's just, it's amazing. So that was one of the amazing things that happened last year with my 5th graders.
Amazing. If there was a success story, that would be it. That sounds epic.
Yeah, it was amazing.
You know, you have so much energy. I think that's what I just could listen to you for hours. I think your stories, I could just like sit and just hear all the excitement and the passion just ooze out of you.
Yeah.
So I don't really know how to phrase this, but like, where does that come from? Like, you are obviously so in love with everything that you do. And when you said that you taught, you know, the vast, like these grade levels, I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know how she does it. So what like fuels your fire? What's keeping you excited about education right now, that obviously then you take that excitement and you bring it back to the classroom? Because I do believe it has to do with science, but it must come from somewhere else as well.
Yeah, that's an awesome question. And it does. Part of it is just passion for science, but it really, at the root of who I am, it's just an excitement for learning. And there are so many different things that we can do in education. We hear a lot, you can't do this, you can't do this, I don't have time, you know, all these excuses. And I don't buy into all of those. I get excited about learning, and anytime an excuse comes up, I find 500, counter arguments for that to say, no, there's that excuse is invalid because we have 5 reasons that we should do it. So I just, at the heart of who I am, I'm a learner. I love learning new things, and I want students to want to learn new things, whether it's history, whether it's language arts, whether they want to read, whether they want to write, do math, do science. I think all of those things are super, super important, and I want students to enjoy learning, and I want them to have a love for it. So I think that's really what drives my passion, because people know me, they put me in a box, which is totally fine. You can do this, and I'm just going to bust the box open. But I get put in this science box where, oh, Becky's the science person. But big secret, I love everything. Like, I love history. I love math. I love teaching reading. I love teaching writing. I love every single bit of it. And I just make it exciting because it's a passion of mine. Learning, education, it's a passion. One of my biggest goal in life, and people laugh at me all the time for this, my goal in life is to save the world. And that's a huge, huge goal. And you're like, oh, okay, Miss America, that's a great goal to say on stage. But I really, really do. I think the way that we're going to save the world is by using the power of education, using the power of curiosity with our students. And if we can get them excited to learn and empowered to make a difference, then we are going to save the world, and we're going to do it through education, and we're going to do it by being passionate about learning and whatever content you have to teach, or you get, I would rephrase that, what you get to teach every single day. You have to be passionate, and you have to instill a love of learning within yourself and within your students so that we can save the world.
Oh, I could not agree more. I think that's so valuable. And, the next step of that is like giving teachers the advice they need to move in that mission with you. So what type of advice would you give, whether it be a new teacher or a veteran teacher? What advice do educators need in this day and age to be a part of that change that you are obviously leading?
You have to connect. And this is something that no one ever told me when I was in college. I'm an education major, and I'm going to teach little kids. I'm going to do elementary education. No one ever told me that it was important to network and to make connections with other people. Like, sure, they talked to the business majors about that, and they talked to communication majors about that, and everyone else. It was so important an important part of their education to know that they have to network in order to be successful. And no one told me in the world of education that we should do that. Like the thought was, you become a teacher, you teach a grade level or two for 30 years and you retire and you call it a day. But that's so not how education is now. You have to be connected or you are missing out. There are so many people all around the world with amazing ideas, amazing strategies, amazing perspectives. And so my big advice would be to connect with anyone and everyone that you want to. Twitter is like, I can't even, it's this rabbit hole of amazing. There's so many people out there that want to connect and just have different perspectives that you have to tap into to be relevant and to be an amazing, well-rounded educator that's really hitting all the parts of education that we need to hit. I only half joke, but I'm mostly serious that I tell people, they'll ask me, how do you know so-and-so? How do you know Ray? How do you know Jeff? How do you know Dave Burgess? Like, how did you have a conversation with him? I'm like, dude, I internet stalk them. And I'm so serious. Like it's so incredibly true. If I'm connected to you on the internet, I have 100% definitely internet stalked you because I'm fascinated by people's stories and I'm fascinated about what you represent. And I'm always looking for different ideas and content and perspectives. So I want to connect with other people. And so that's how I connect. I go into the field and I do research every single summer in the Amazon rainforest with a National Geographic explorer by the name of Andres Russo. And I literally know him because I heard him speak and I thought it was amazing. And then I jumped on the internet and I stalked his work. And then I sent him a message randomly on Twitter and was like, hey, you're never going to remember who I am, but I met you here. I think you're amazing. Can I work with you? Can I connect you with my students? And he said, yes. And to date, I have never had someone that I've reached out to say no. So you have to connect. Long story, even longer. Connections are so incredibly important in the world of education. You never know what opportunities are out there if you don't try and you don't go for them.
Man, I couldn't agree more. I love that is your suggestion, because obviously that's not only how we connected, but now I'm a little anxious about what I look like when you internet stalk me. So hopefully I passed because you're on the podcast.
That's so funny.
I love that. That is a great piece of advice that, Ray and I met on Twitter, but I love that. And you highlighted also one of my favorite things was just the power of asking.
Yeah.
And I tell the story. I won't tell it now, but when I got to drive the Mercedes when I was younger from just asking, but like that little thing, like the worst thing he could have done was just ignore you or tell you no. Right. I mean,
yeah,
but you never know unless you ask, and then you have to do that by connecting. I love that. It is so important to connect and build your field. And that's awesome. Loving it.
Yeah.
Loving this episode so far. Let's keep it going here. We're gonna do the next 6 questions.
Oh boy!
And your goal is to answer each one of them in 15 seconds or less. You ready to go?
Yes.
All right. Give us one ed tech tool you cannot live without.
Twitter.
Well, give us a book that you're reading right now.
The Teach Better book, which I know you're probably thinking like that's a joke because you're talking to us, but I'm seriously I'm halfway through. That's the book I'm reading right now.
All right. Sidestep. How's the book?
It's awesome. It's well, you guys know it because you wrote it, but it's all about stories. And so I told you before, like it's all about sharing, connecting. You read those stories and you're like, man, that's amazing. Like I feel like I have a little sneak peek into your lives. And when we're slow jogging to Rocky Theme in Ohio to embrace for the first time, all the stories are gonna be running through my head.
That's awesome. And best part about that is I don't have to give you $20 after this because that was genuine. So I love it. So who should we follow today on either Twitter or Instagram?
Okay, these people you should follow on both Twitter and Instagram because they are on both. So my first near and dear friend who I've only met on the internet, so I internet stalked him, is Elijah Carbajal. He is a 4th grade teacher and he is absolutely amazing. He's doing some fantastic stuff and I love connecting with him. Another one is he's science-based, but he's amazing. His name is John Mead. He's a science teacher in Texas. And he's, Elijah Carbajal is at Carbaeli, Carbaeli. John Mead is a science teacher from Texas. His handle is at Evo_Explorer. So he does a lot of work with evolution. That's like his nerd thing is he loves learning and teaching about evolution. And then my third person is National Geographic explorer Andres Russo, who is at Geo Ruzo, Georuzo. He's absolutely amazing. He's the person that I talked about earlier that I would not have been connected with if I didn't go out on a limb. Yes, internet stalk him, and then just ask him to connect. And he said yes. And now we are like best friends. He's amazing. We do a lot of work together. We collaborate with students, and we have so many projects in the works that it is incredibly exciting.
That's awesome. Give us a good YouTube channel or website for educators.
Yeah, I love and I swear by Art Hub for Kids. It's amazing because it is a father and his son and a father and his daughter, and they teach you how to do different drawings. Some are cartoons, some are kind of poppy thing like Fortnite characters, but I love that they demonstrate how to draw different things. I like their sea turtle and their praying mantis. So when I'm teaching different things that are nature-based, I will take a little break from going out in the field and collecting data or doing sketches outside, and we'll learn how to draw them in the classroom. So I love that. It's great for teachers of any subject. You can use it for indoor recess. You can use it just for a brain break. It can be used for so many different things, and it activates a different part of the brain. So Art Hub for Kids is amazing.
Give us a daily, weekly, or monthly routine every teacher should get into.
Great one. I would say daily, weekly, or monthly positive communication home is a must do. And I encourage any educator, choose the time frame that works for you. If you can do this daily, great. If you can do it weekly, great. If you do it monthly, great. I teach about 300 students, and I make sure to do at least one positive communication per week. And usually it's one person per grade level at least. So get in that habit, whatever time frame you need, but get that positive communication home because it is a game changer for your relationships with families and your students.
And what's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Oh, yes. This is easy. Be unapologetically you. You have to be you. You have to embrace every part of you. If there's something about yourself that you don't like, you got to work on it, but always be you, be genuine, and don't apologize for being who you are.
She wins the trophy. Come on, Becky, you're awesome. I just love your energy. I said this earlier, but I really could just listen to you and I love forever. And I love your unapologetically you. I am so happy that you're you because this just like brought me this like wave of excitement that I cannot wait to get to my own classroom tomorrow, which usually I'm excited about. I feel like I have this new excitement after speaking with you. So I'm so thrilled that you're able to share all that.
That's awesome. Yeah. And when I do like keynotes or I talk to students, like motivational speaking, I tell them that for 25 years, I wasn't me. So I'm 36. So for 25 years of my life, I wasn't me because of one thing that one teacher told me in third grade. And it's terrible. Like you have to just be you, and it doesn't matter what anyone says, and it doesn't matter. So my third grade teacher told me I wasn't good at math, and so I would never be good at math, and also I would never be good at science. And so for 25 years of my life, I ran away from it, even though like it was super interesting to me. I was like, yeah, well, I'll never be good at it because my teacher told me not to, and I can't even imagine if I had just not listened to that, and if I had pursued what I do now 25 years earlier, I can't even imagine what volcano of craziness I would be in the world of education and science. But I just have to tell students and everyone really, you just have to be you, and it doesn't matter what anyone else says about it. You just have to embrace it. And if someone doesn't like it, then go away from them.
Well, Becky, I want to make sure our listeners can connect with you and continue to learn all this value from your energy and your passion and everything in between. Would you mind sharing the best ways for them to internet stalk you.
Yeah, absolutely. Please internet stalk away. Let me know what you find. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. My handle is always just my last name, so it's Schnekser. It's SCHNEKSER. My website is expeditionschnekser.com. It's all about the expeditions that I go on, the field work that I do, and how I bring it to classrooms. And if you want me to come or collaborate on classroom activities or do professional development or speak for conferences about anything, that's where you can really contact me. And then otherwise, just go on Google, Becky Schnekser. A lot of times it tries to autocorrect you to Becky Schneider, but that's not me. So don't look at Becky Schneider. I don't know what she's about. But yeah.
Awesome. And, you can find all the links and everything we talked about with Becky in this episode over at teachbetter.com, as well as all the links to connect with her and keep the conversation going with her and internet stalker. So make sure you head over to the show notes over at teachbetter.com for all of that. Be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss any of the upcoming episodes. And if you can give us a rating and review, we'd really, really appreciate that. And let's take that one step further. Let's think of just 3 of your colleagues who need to hear these amazing stories and share this podcast with them. Becky, this was awesome. Such a great episode. I love your passion, your energy, your excitement, and the value that you bring. So pumped to have you out to the Teach Better conference in a couple of weeks, but just really, really appreciate you coming on and having some fun with us and chatting with us. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. It was super exciting.
And until next time, let's get out there and let's teach better.